This week on the podcast, we spoke about the Joy Formidable, which I recommended to Ben. Standards, which is a math rock band that Ben's thrown at me. Spoke about math rock in general, and Standards and their fruit-based fun, which I compared to Hey Bear, which is a kids show on YouTube. Very different. I'm going to send Ben that to listen to because I think you'll enjoy it. And then we also spoke about do bands have jobs? What point do you get to in a band where you have, I don't know, excerts also serving fish and chips? Or funeral for a friend. I don't know. I can make loads of these up. I won't because I'm probably going to offend someone. But yeah, enjoy.
Can we discuss Botox first?
Go on then.
We were just discussing Botox and if it's punk rock because I've discovered this line because the sun's in my head. It's bonkers. It's so deep.
What, on your nose?
No, like above.
Or that crevice.
Like the Mariana Trench. They sound like an emo band, actually. So.
Yeah, they do actually.
Ties in lovely. That is good.
What would the Mariana Trench sound like?
I think because there's a band called the Juliana Theory, isn't there? For some reason, that reminds me of them. So I think they'd sound a bit like that, that kind of second wave emo, where it wasn't pop punky and it wasn't full Midwesterny. It was quite mainstream, like a bit Jimmy World.
Yeah. Straight up.
Trench.
I was going. Trench sounds quite like a bit doom metal-y.
So do you think they'd be more like?
Yeah. I think they'd shout their name at the beginning of like the set, and every song title would be shouted as well.
Jason Derulo.
Jason Derulo. Yeah. Speaking of Jason Derulo, who did you ask me to listen to this week?
Right, what did you listen to? Yes, you're going first, aren't you? What did you listen to? What did I give you?
You recommended. I mean, I like the band name, Standards.
Oh yeah.
I thought that sounds like you told me they're math rock already, but Standards sounds like a pop punk band name. I thought.
It does.
Like we're Standards, and I'm really angry at my mum. Like that sounds like a pop punk band. But Standards, and the album was called Fruit Galaxy, which sounds a bit more math rocky and a bit more out there.
Yeah.
So few caveats before I go into my review. Because I feel like it's good to tee it up. I do generally like some of this stuff, like a more math rocky kind of stuff. I don't know, stuff that I see as like kind of math rocky. Like, I don't know if they all fall into the same category, but to me they're kind of a bit like out there in their music. But like I told you, like Battles Mirrored is like one of my favourite albums. Like I don't mind some mad stuff. Fall of Troy and Mars Volta, Minus the Bear. Like I was having a think earlier. I don't know if they're all definitely like math rock or that some of them are heavier than others and stuff like that. I think that's all in and around that for me. But yeah, like the album itself, like is so upbeat. I did like that about it.
Yeah.
Before I go into the stuff I didn't like, which I'm going to pre-warn you, Ben. It is really upbeat. It couldn't be more math rock sounding / Midwesty guitar-y fiddly bits if it tried. It was like Midwest emo guitar on smack. Some of the like it's just like is a bit. I found it a bit like cool. Okay, but I know that's what that's meant to do. Like almost, I know what those bands are just. They are just riffing that stuff, right? Like that's what that kind of math rock, I guess, with Standards felt like to me. It was that they just riff those kind of noodly Midwesty emo things and just bounce around a little bit. I think it was wasted on me, Ben, if I'm really honest. And there was bits that I listened to. Yeah, no, it probably is going to be it's going to be negative, but they weren't bad. I just don't think it's for me. That's how I'm going to call it. Yeah, like I don't think they're a bad band, and there was like some guitar bits when I was listening. I was like, oh, this is a good little riff or whatever. Like, and I had it on in the back. Like, it ended up I put it on to listen to whilst I was eating my lunch and like finishing some bits at work. and because I knew it wouldn't be a gym album.
Yeah.
Literally just got back to the gym, even wearing a Counterparts t-shirt, which is more gym. Like, I like heavy stuff there. The only kid ever to wear a Counterparts t-shirt to the gym. But yeah, like I liked it, but it ended up being quite good background music for work, which I wouldn't say is like making it top tier album for me. It was fine in the background. It was almost like emo jazz.
Yeah, I think that's a very
maybe
good
that's
label.
what it is. Or maybe that's emo jazz.
Yeah.
It is. I found it very samey. Like after a while, I got lost as to whether I'd change song or not. Because the songs jump around so much, it's very easy to lose where you are in it. Like, it was fine in the background, which sounds really like that sounds like a really horrible like. That sounds like we've gone on a date and I've said, "Oh, I think we'd be good friends." Like, like it sounds like you're being nice, but it's actually a bit harsh.
Exactly.
So yeah. I think we're better off just sort of acquaintances.
Yeah.
That's how I see Standards Fruit Galaxy.
Just in a weird place right now.
Yeah, I'm just coming out of some stuff, and I feel like we'd be better just sort of if we see each other, say hi. But I don't think it's going anywhere. Yeah, that was what I would say, to the point where I was listening to it.
Yeah.
And it was on Spotify, and when the album finishes, it just keeps playing stuff that you might like that's like that album. And it started another album of another very similar band. I can't remember the name of the band. And then I was just nodding, and it went another 2 songs into another band, and I didn't notice.
I think that's the weird stuff with like instrumental stuff, and I love all this sort of music, but it can be quite samey, and that is fine, I find. But I mean, I think this album is probably a bit samey, and I chose it knowing that. But they are also one of my favourite bands, if that's possible. So like my Spotify Wrapped, like they're in my top 5 listened to the last few years.
Oh wow!
I love them. But a whole album of it, I am totally with you. I wouldn't say I've listened to this album through loads. So I probably should have picked the EP, but
okay. Yeah. I to your point, I think I would put it on if I had some work to do, and it's like a nice little background listen, or if like, because sometimes you want music on, or I quite often put the radio on, or like I'm really bad for just putting on like, I don't know, a playlist and just turn it down quite low, because I just want a bit of noise, like where I'm working at home or whatever, like just a bit of background noise. And I think this would, again, it doesn't sound like a compliment, but I mean it as in like I feel like that would be, sometimes there's use cases for things, like I just said, put Counterparts on at the gym, put American football on when you're sad. Like, it's like one of those things, like, and I feel like it's got a use case, which for me would be, I'm doing some work and I'll put that on in the background. It's like nice listen. But is it something that I'm gonna put on? I've not added any songs to a playlist.
No, that is fair.
Like I said, it went into another band and I didn't even clock it, which I thought was actually hilarious. And I was like, I've definitely got to mention that. Sometimes. Sorry, go on.
I was just gonna say I bloody love them. Like when they're on it, and like a few songs on this album, like is it Cloudberry, I love the first 2 songs are just so fun. It's almost like, I do love this genre, but its standards are almost like,
I did put that in my notes. I did put that in my little notes. I put it starts so upbeat. I think first track or 2 I was like, okay, this is all right. Like I'm not like, oh my god, but like I was like, I can listen to this is all right. Like this is my initial first 2 songs.
That's what I always think. Like, it's insanely techy. The drumming is like unbelievable. There's some drum videos from this like album that are just insane. I can't take it in. And but it almost sounds like it is for children, and all the theming around it, like all the albums have been like fruit based, and people take like inflatable blow ups to their shows and stuff. They're tiny, but like when they do their headline gigs, like they just look really fun. I just love everything around it.
That makes me like them a bit more.
I think it can be such a pretentious sort of music, and like, I think Standards could be seen as pretentious if you just heard it, but actually they're just a laugh. Like, it's mainly just one guy, the guitarist Marcos Mena, his name is, They've got amazingly a few different drummers, which always blows my mind when you have like some drumming that's
How
so
do you learn
specific.
that shit?
Yeah,
How do you just come in and like? I get how you could switch drummers in like most kind of like
yeah,
rock bands or whatever, but like, yeah, to switch for this stuff where it does like feel like freeform emo.
yeah. Basically.
Like it is like, how do you do
I
that?
know, man. Like, yeah, like you say, where do you find someone that's pretty? They seem to tour a lot, but are quite small. Like, yeah. So I'm
Yeah.
fascinated by it. But yeah, I'm a big fan. I don't know when. I know what you mean about like listening to it at certain times, but I think it makes me so happy. Like, it's proper summery. I just think it's really fun, really upbeat, but so techy. But I love that the fact they're sort of trying to hide the techiness in these like just fun, almost dumb riffs. But then it's like if you proper focus in on it, it is so technical. It's bonkers.
Oh yeah, the musicianship is, and any of these type of bands is always insane.
Yeah,
Like the technical, it's almost so technical that, like you said, it's almost like it could be seen as a bit snobby or whatever. Like
yeah,
because you're that good at guitar. Like it's that mental level of like random. Like remember Dragon Force, where it was just
yeah.
that ridiculous. Like
And at least they kind of got
like,
it.
but like.
They knew it was fun.
Yeah, I thought they saw the tongue and cheek in. Yeah,
Like prog, I could never really get on board
yeah.
with because prog feels like the serious version of this, where it's like it is like look at what we can do, and I don't want that. I want bands to be
Yeah,
like bashful about it, be like they're
yeah,
learning and
and
stuff.
that's
We've talked about bands like that before who are like writing insanely good pop songs, but it's so techy.
ridiculous.
It's
Yeah,
like, oh, what you want to
yeah. Oh,
hide your light behind a bushel, lads? Come on.
great
Bless
saying.
them. Yeah, I
But
think
yeah, no,
everything you said is
I'm
totally
with you.
valid. I buy all of that. I knew it was going to be a bit of a Marmite one. That's why I was fascinated. And it's probably unfair to give you one
I
that
think
I
that's
actually
good.
struggled to listen to all the way through, but it's worth a go.
Do you think this is? Do you think this is where this will descend to when we start running out of albums to recommend and bands that we like? Is going to be start being like, oh, I'm going to recommend this album that I hated to Ben because I think he'll hate it too. We said we weren't going to get. We said we were going to be honest on this podcast
Yeah.
and not purposely negative, but also at the same time, if you didn't like something, I'm just going to say it wasn't really for me.
Yeah.
Like we said, we weren't going to be knobs about it. As we both said, we've spent time being very snobby about music before when we were younger. Like, well, that's not proper screamo.
Yeah.
Like about about bands and stuff. But yeah, so for me, it wasn't for me generally. Is what I'd say. I think I need with this kind of band. I do think I need like vocal hooks.
Yeah, fair
And I
enough.
think apart from battles where I feel like the riffs are that mad and like there is vocals, but they're like almost in an alien language is the only way I can describe
Yeah.
it for anyone that's never listened to battles. It's just him kind of making funny noises and tunes with his mouth, which again makes them sound absolutely insane. And you're thinking, well, you probably should have liked standards, as they actually, well, they didn't sing, but like, do you know what I mean? It was actually like you could understand what was going on. But yeah, I just think it was maybe a bridge too far for me.
Yeah.
And then you're telling me that you were. What would you give it out of 10, Ben? After
It's
saying
interesting,
that,
yeah, because as an album, like I say, I think they're an EP band. They're a song band, sure. So as an album, I guess it's
Yeah, yeah.
7 because of how much I love the songs I love. I like love. There's like 4 songs on there that are just
Okay.
on repeat in my head. I don't even listen to it. I
Yeah.
just memorize them. They're there.
Are you? I didn't realise you were a math rocket. You've memorised what you could play that on guitar. You
Yeah, I
reckon?
reckon. Even though I've never played guitar before, I reckon I could play that on guitar.
I reckon that's a high up guitar thing, isn't
Yeah,
it?
he
That's
is a high-up guitar boy. Yes.
yeah, definitely.
He's very
That's
cool
under your
as well.
chin.
He's not nerdy or anything. He's not one of them bloody nerds. Yeah, I think
Not
I'd give it a
dweeb.
7 because of how strong the good songs are. But I totally appreciate it's a bit samey. What about you?
I'm caveating my score, which always is like, oh no, what's this going to
Yeah.
be? But just for me is how I'm going to score this. Like I'm going to give it a 5 out of 10.
That's fair. Is that low for
And
that?
that's saying that it's technically it's technically amazing, to be fair. Like it's technically quite good actually. Like it's a very good musicianship. I just can't really listen to it, which means that I appreciate what they're doing and that they're good. I know they're good. I know they're good at what they do, but it's not. So for me, it's a 5. Like, I get why you'd give it a 7 if you're into that kind of music, because I think it was like a fairly good listen.
Just listen to 5 out of 10, unlistenable.
Unlistenable. Wow, what do you have to do to get below a 5?
Unlistenable.
It's because it wasn't bad. It wasn't bad. It just wasn't for me.
I like
it wasn't like
that counts for something, doesn't it? Like,
yeah, exactly. Like, I definitely, it could be good background music. Again, sounds offensive.
No, I get it. I think vocalless stuff, or instrumental is probably the word, stuff is better for background, I find. Like working and stuff.
Because you end up singing or whatever. Yeah.
I'm like, please stop talking to me, singer. Just need guitar.
Just shut up for a second.
Soothing guitar. Good stuff. What about the? I mean, again, I think the artwork's a bit silly. I love that whole thing they've got, but obviously, what do you think of the artwork?
I didn't know that.
Where are you popping it in your?
I didn't know this theme that you said about where it's all fruit.
Yeah.
Which you've again, for context, I have a 2.5-year-old. Ben doesn't have any kids. There's a thing, and I'm going to have to remember what it's called, but I'm going to send you it, and you're going to be like, this is standards themed. But it's like a kid's show for when they're like really little, and it's dancing fruit, which I just feel like now should be the video for the standards, like songs or whatever. I'll send you it because this reminded me of that. It was called Hey Bear.
Oh yeah.
I'll try and put it up or something.
Amazing.
And it's just black and white and like loads of really colourful fruits, and you just put it on the TV, and when they're like little, they're just like,
amazing.
Like, what the hell is that?
That's what I mean. I think for kids, it's all quite childish, but I love that. Like,
yeah, the album cover's cool. It's Space Invaders meets Pokemon kind of themed. Like, this fruit looked like Pokemon a bit. It's a bit anime. It's cool. It's nice. Again, this is so like, we're gonna say it for every band now, and I think I'm gonna do a pop punk hardcore emo nursery for my little one now, because every band album cover we're like nursery, but this one genuinely is nursery.
There's also a limited number of rooms in a house, and this was a plot point we set up without thinking about that, because we're going to be repeating rooms quite. So,
I don't know, it could be like entrance hall. I don't know, maybe we're gonna have to list out the rooms and figure it out, because I immediately just went, it's got kid stuff on it, so I go nursery. Colourful nursery.
Yeah, I'm with you. It's got to be nursery. Okay, I mean, I know that's creepy for me, but I'm allowed to have an imaginary nursery in this because it's our podcast.
Yeah, all right, I'll give you that one. We won't. We'll see what happens in the comment section on that bit. Song titles. I think, just a side note, like this feature, I think I like the album cover one, but I think long term, I'm not sure if this feature stays on song titles, because it's very rare that they're actually interesting, and we'll keep just saying,
or generic.
Yeah, these are all just mainly one word.
Yeah,
like holiday, cool, wisteria. I don't mind them, like they weren't bad, and there's no words in the song, so it's not like you can call it Sugar We're Going Down, do you know what I mean? Because that's what he says in the song. You can't do that with this. So the one word thing I kind of liked. It was easy. The best song title on there is See Ya, which is just the letter C and then Ya, which is the last song, and I was like, that's a cool song title.
I guess the lyrics thing with song titles can go one or two ways, because these are quite generic one word, but then like Mogwai have some of the best song titles ever.
Oh my god!
And I think they must just do that thing where every funny phrase they ever hear, or anything funny anyone ever says, or cool, I swear they must just jot it down, because their song titles are so good, and they're not coming from lyrics.
They've got my favourite ever. Well, one of my favourite ever album titles, Mogwai.
Yeah, what's that?
Which is Hardcore Will Never Die, but You Will.
It's so good, isn't it?
Fuck yes! Like, that literally is the best album title. Like, oh my god!
Jim
like,
Morrison and I'm Dead Now. Like that. That's clearly something someone has said, like in a practice or something. They're like, write it down.
Yeah, like messing around. Yeah,
it can go either way, I guess. But these are just we're gonna have this discussion every week, aren't we? Yeah, just generic.
We found once for like an old band that I was in. Randomly, we were talking about record shops and like where we worked before. But when I was working in a record shop, it was a bit of a hermity kind of guy, used to come in and buy like jazz CDs, and he dropped this book when he was in.
Yeah.
and it was like all these random scribblings, and he was a bit like kooky or whatever, and it was just random notes and observations that he'd had, and we were like, this is mad. Like, we waited for him to come back in, and just like it had like a page or two open, and me and like one of the lads, Sam, who I used to work with, who was in like the band, me and him used to work there, and we were both looking at it, and we were like, oh my god, the song titles in this thing are literally like chef's kiss. There was a line in it, and we used it as an EP like title, which was some people claim to have dreams that they've seen as a good sign. I can't say that I've ever had one.
Why?
And I was like, that, and we were like, what? Like, bang, album or like EP cut, and we caught. Oh, like there was some in it that was like, I don't like this dog being in my garden. Like there was like some weird like or whatever. Like, I wish these people would stop looking at me. That sounds like a Tube Lord song title. Somewhere out there is a dog on fire. Again, one of my favourite song titles. But yeah, like rambling. So yeah, I do like this kind of idea of just noting down random shit that comes out and it being.
That's generally what I used to do, as opposed to picking something from the lyrics, just because I just found that boring. But
yeah, no, I'm with you
as well, because it's the obvious thing to do. But yeah, just jotting down random shit is fun.
Yeah. So what you need to do is, if you see a kind of, I don't know, a kind of hermity old man, if he's got a notebook, have him and get the notebook, and then you've got song titles, especially if you're in a bit of an emo-y math rock band. Like, I think you'd be sorted.
Please don't attack any.
Please don't attack
any
people.
Down on their lap. You can ask him if he's got any good ideas for
be nice to each other.
Sure.
Yes. There you go. Just ask him nicely to read his book.
Well, I think that's that covered.
Speaking of listening to, Ben, what did I remember what I've now asked you to listen to.
Yeah,
Joy Formidable, Big Raw. And I'm buzzing to hear what you have to say about this, because I think it's either going to be right up your street or you're not going to like it. And I kind of like that. It might.
There you go. No, Joy Formidable. Got some facts. I've only got 2. Welsh.
Go on then. Hit me, fact me.
Yeah. That's it.
Strong.
Not the best Wikipedia. Is that a fact?
Oh, okay.
Fact 3. Not the best Wikipedia.
Yeah.
This album came out in 2011. When you said it, so I do know this. I don't know if this completely fucks up our format, but I do know this album. But not well, and it was nice to revisit it. But I definitely remember it when it came out. I feel like, correct me if I'm wrong, but they kind of lumped in with like the post-hardcore lads. I feel like all my friends were into it, and they were playing gigs that I was at, and I was like, "Oh, they're not a post-hardcore band, so I'm not really sure why that's happened."
I don't know. I think people didn't know where to put them.
Listening to this again, I do get, because they made me feel a bit thick, because it's kind of just a straight-up rock album. But I was really struggling to like pick out many influences. I would say. I don't mean straight-up rock album as an insult. Obviously, it's great and interesting. But there's nothing particularly mad about it. But for some reason, I was struggling to pick anything.
Yeah, it's not really heavy or
my first thoughts were, as they are with every band, is they like The Cure, which I think it sort of goes under the radar just how influential The Cure on this are. Like pop punk and rock scene. It's mental. Every band loves them. So yeah, there was definitely a bit of Cure. Like the first song, there's a bit of like shoegazy, I thought. It's obviously heavy, but that kind of gothy shoegazy, like the first song, sounded a bit like the Cocktail Twins.
Yeah.
There's a bit of like My Bloody Valentine. Yeah.
Oh, great reference.
I always worry I just say that because it's a female vocalist, and I'm like, what other female vocalists are there? But that first song, I was like, no, the melodies on this are like, if you told me it was a Cocktail Twins cover, I'd believe you.
Yeah. Worth listening to the best of if anyone's never listened to them.
They are bloody fantastic. I don't know. But also, My Bloody Valentine. It was great. I remember loving it back in the day. I don't think I knew it that well. And weirdly, I remember discovering it a few years ago because they popped into my head. And I was like, I'm going to check that out. and I enjoyed it. I'd say it's not as good as I remember. I don't know if that's fair.
Oh, okay.
Basically, I really enjoyed it listening through. Like, it's great. There's some absolute bangers. None of this is going to be
Yeah.
negative. I just remember absolutely loving it back in the day, and having kind of not listened to it for years.
Yeah, me
And
too.
going back to it, it was like, yes, this was lovely. I didn't really remember any of it, which I don't know if that's, yeah, I guess a good thing.
That's good.
But yeah, it was really good, man. There's some absolute bangers. Like, what is it, Austere? That is an absolute tune.
Oh,
It's so good.
it's
There's some proper
massive,
riffs as
isn't
well,
it?
considering I've been talking about like shoegazy and
Yeah.
cocktail
Oh,
tunes.
yeah.
Like, there are some proper riffs, and it's more the riffs I was struggling to like tie down, like what sort of riffs they were. They're not like proper big rock riffs, but they're not like post-hardcore riffs. There's sort of that. There's almost like a bit of like early
No,
noughties.
it's just big
Yeah, it's a
rock.
bit. I wonder if they had a male singer, you'd probably lump them more in with like the early noughties indie stuff, like Future Headsy and stuff like that. But I think the female vocal,
Yeah, there's like a bit of a there's a bit of
yeah, like
a
definitely
muse
early.
maybe like kind of thing about it, like back in
Yeah,
like a plug-in baby kind of like, but they're well, I don't mind Muse, but like I think less they're less proggy than that. I think they're a bit more like
yeah,
I
I
think
think
there's
it's
just so
basically
many
what it is.
influences going on there, which like it's cool. I think they're unique. They sound. I actually they're one of the few bands where I listen to them and I like to you. I can't put them
Yeah,
quite in a pot. And they're like in and around the scene. Like I said, they played at
so
2000
they're still
Trees the
going,
last
are
2 years actually. And I've seen them
they're
like
still going, are they?
sorry, say that again.
Yeah, fair play.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Like I think they're just kind of touring. I think they released an
Oh,
album that
that's
was like
so
all in
cool.
Welsh.
That's so up my Strasser as well as a
Like
pretend Welshman. I love shit like that.
but yeah, like I think they're quite. I think they're like they're not. They never.
Yeah.
I think this album was their big album, like their kind of first album. I remember it getting a lot of hype. Not a lot of hype, but do you know what I mean? It was in like I
Oh
remember being in
yeah.
Rock Sound and getting a 9 out of 10 or something like that, and that was what. And I was like, oh, I'll check that out. That'll be good. You know, you're just constantly on the hunt for like new music. And I remember buying it and putting it on like relentlessly, and to the point where as soon as they went on tour, I was like, tickets. Went to see them live. Really, really good
Yeah.
live. Like really, really good live actually. And I've seen them 4 times now live, twice at Trees and then twice just on their own. And they're amazing live for a 3 piece as well. They sound
Oh
like the record
really?
as well. They sound fucking massive live,
Yeah.
like absolutely huge. Yeah, yeah. Yeah. The drummer's insane. Like 3 really good musicians. Like she's great live as
Yeah.
well. Like great front woman, front person. Don't know what we're saying. Yeah, just like a great
Yeah.
like lead of the band. Yeah, they're very, very good live. They sound exactly like, not exactly like the record, you know what I mean? It's a bit more raw or whatever, but they're still as big. Because sometimes 3 piece,
Yeah.
they kind of add layers on like the CD, and then you see them live, and you're like, oh, it was a bit thin almost. But like,
Amazing.
yeah,
Oh,
they're
that's
really
good because
good,
yeah, I
really,
mean,
really
even
good.
you saying that I don't know much about them really. So even you saying they're a three-piece, I wouldn't have guessed that. Listening to this again, I think I assumed there's bloody loads of them.
Yeah,
So it's good to know that they pull that off as well. I'm getting strong, like, it reminds me of the chat we had about Los Campesinos. So I wonder if and all Welsh people do kind of know each other. So I don't think this is a bad thing, but they must know each other. But in terms of like the fact they're still touring, probably got jobs, like hopefully create jobs they could do around this.
yeah,
But I love that, like, had the one big album and have just carried on a bit more under the radar. Um, and are quite hard to pin
yeah,
down. Like it's all quite like the chat we had about Los Campesinos. So I love that. It kind of all ties in a bit. But yeah, I'm glad you said you were struggling to time
yeah,
down because
yeah,
it just, yeah, it was just eluding me. I felt like there was a really obvious comparison there, and I couldn't quite like pluck it out of the air. But I guess because
yeah,
just there isn't really. They're obviously into all sorts. Like there's a lot of like grunge in there. There's a bit of Pixies, a bit of
yeah,
Breeders.
yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if that's just because it's a woman, but there was definitely some of that sort of thing in there. But I loved it, man. Like I've listened to it a few times. I listened to it on my run this morning.
Pixies
So
is
it's
a
quite
good
a good
shout.
running album actually, because it's not too mental. Good pace.
Yeah, it's quite upbeat.
Someone as
Yeah,
rapid as me.
yeah, it's good pace. There's some really clever bits in some songs. I can't rapid. There's some really clever songs as well
Yeah,
where the tempo shifts. There's an end of a song where, and there's double bass like from the drums at the end of this kind of like proggy, like you said, like Cure Pixies kind of thing that should be out of place, and they kind of break into it, and then it picks up
yeah,
tempo as the song's playing, which they do live, and it is insane because it just to listen to, like, it sounds like when you've seen like a local band live and they speed up, but they do it flawlessly over like 4 bars where they
yeah.
just speed up to a new tempo. It's so good. It's amazing to see live. I was like, how are they going to do that? Are they just going to stop and start or whatever? But they just
That's amazing.
ramp up. And it's mad. It's really good. Right.
Yeah,
There's
it
some really clever
is.
bits in
Kind of
like
feel
their
like could
songs. I
pull
do
off
think.
anything really. Like if anything had popped up in this, I would have been like, yeah, no,
Yeah,
fair play. But again, it kind of feels like a pretty
that works.
straightforward rock album. I think that's really clever, like being able to throw all of that into a mix, like everything they like, and it doesn't feel like a mad album. It doesn't feel
Yeah.
like, whoa, what am I listening to? It just feels like a really good, well-written, like solid rock album. So well done. Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, you said about the buzz. I definitely remember that from back in the day. Like even the people who weren't massively into music, I can vividly remember some people who I'm like, oh, I remember them being really into the Joy Formidable, and it wasn't like my big muso mates and my punk mates. So yeah, there was
Yeah.
definitely a
Yeah.
little buzz around them, wasn't there? And I think they probably did all right off the back of that. Yeah, they seemed to tour quite a lot back then, and it's great they're still going. I love that.
Yeah. Yeah. They're definitely, like you said, they're not. I do find that stuff fascinating. Like, at what point are you in a band and not
Yeah, I know.
got a job and in a band? Like, yeah, where does that happen? I would have thought
Yeah,
it's actually
definitely. I
further
bet you
along
have to
than we
be
think.
like pretty
Like,
bloody massive, I reckon.
yeah, I know a lot of like there's a few people I know of in and around that have been in bands that were like quite big, and I've chatted to, and I know that they, like, there's a couple of drummers I know that are in bands, one or two, like that are fairly big right now, and you'd see at festivals, and they're on when they're not
Yeah.
playing, they're drum teching. So I think a lot of people do that kind of thing. Like I don't know, they'll tour with X band and then they'll drum tech
Okay.
for them next time when they're not on
Yeah.
tour, and like fill in the gaps kind of thing. Yeah, I think there's quite a lot of that goes on, like, or like you said, like recording, or like
Yeah, graphic
quite a lot of
design, anything
tattooists, like
like
stuff you can do, creative stuff
creative.
you can do. Yeah,
Yeah,
stuff you can do on the
exactly. I've never
side,
thought about them
creative. Yeah,
teching and
yeah, for
stuff,
sure.
actually. That's an interesting point. That makes perfect.
Especially drummers.
Yeah.
Drummers seems to be really prevalent, like with that. Yeah, that they tech, because unless you're a drummer, like, you don't know what's broken or fallen off in
Yeah,
mid
man.
set or what someone could need, but like you always, yeah, yeah. So that always makes sense. But yeah, we'll have to do a pod on that. Like, we'll have to do an actual, like, get someone or someone. I know a
Yeah,
few
that'd
people,
be
like I said, so we
fascinating.
could get someone on maybe and just like, what
Yeah,
at
I
what
think there's
point
always
do
that
you
thing of people
yeah, do
assuming
you
you're
like,
a
is this
millionaire, like the second you play a festival they've heard of or something. And actually, as we know, like, yeah,
yeah,
money, I'd just be fascinated to know when you have to get massive, I think, before you can even consider jacking it in.
yeah. I agree. I think it's bigger than,
Yeah,
like I said, I think it's bigger
100%,
than
man.
people think, for sure.
But yeah, I really
Um,
enjoyed this.
back on Joy
Great
Formidable.
band
Yeah, go
name.
on. What song titles?
So good.
Yeah.
I don't
Oh,
know.
great band
Song
name.
titles
Song
I
titles.
really liked. I liked, wait, because there was one that isn't on this, but I think it was an older song of theirs that they did a Christmas EP, and it's called My Beer Drunk Soul is Sadder Than 100 Dead Christmas Trees. How good is that?
Whoa. Again, that sounds like
Yeah,
this could have been in that old man's book. And that
that's going to be
that will be a
short.
reference now forever on the
Old man's
podcast. Could it have been in the old man's book? Is it in the old man
So
book?
basically, they know their way around a song title, and that is like proper emo, and I love it. On this one, there's some good ones. The Ever-Changing Spectrum of a
Hmm.
Lie. They're all quite emo, but I like it. Austere is good.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm not sure how to
Same.
say it, but I think that's right. What else? Yeah, there's one in Welsh here, isn't there? God, I wish I could speak Welsh. Laurie called.
It's wall in
Oh, is
Welsh.
that true? It's
It's
backwards as
wall in
well.
Welsh, I think.
God,
Yeah. Oh,
Should I
Oh
Google
God,
it,
is it
like?
one of them weird
'Cause-
ones? I thought it was. I always assumed this because it's two L's. I assumed it was Welsh like
Yeah, but I
you,
wonder if it
but it
means
is just
something.
wall
Sorry, I'm
backwards.
gonna Google live.
I wonder if it means in Welsh. It means I wonder if it means wall in Welsh,
that would
and
be
also
amazing.
it's just wall spelled backwards. That would be amazing.
What is law in
I hope
English?
so.
The definition
Come
of
on.
law in Welsh section.
You said
Come on.
search wall
I
in Welsh.
did. I know it's pronounced like a sort of F, but I can't. I don't think it means anything, you know.
I love that you said I want to be
I
Welshman.
actually am a bit Welsh. That sounds pathetic. I want to be
No
Welshman.
idea.
In English,
You know
it's,
what I mean.
wait, hand, side, touch, handwriting. One of them, something like that.
And
Yeah,
we'll
it's
never
bad.
Google anything live again.
Oh,
The
that's
greatest
good,
light
isn't
is
it?
the greatest
Really
shade.
good.
That's a great
50
title.
minutes. I didn't feel like 50 minutes.
A heavy
Flies
abacus.
by. Yeah.
Oh, is it? Yeah, it is a long album actually. Consider well,
Yeah,
it's because
what
you
was
keep
that?
recommending 20-minute LA punk bands.
43 seconds.
Oh,
Kilometers. 1 hour. 29.
I don't know what's
What's-
happening. Strava
is that an
it's
update
never
from
done that
Strava
before.
live? I don't think we've had a podcast where you've not pressed something in the
Oh, it's 'cause
background.
my fat fingers. Like Pretty Charles. Good.
Album cover.
My head's gone, mate. I'll level with you. No, the album's really good. The cover is great. I think it's quite spooky, but other than that,
Yeah.
I would go living room, I think, which is the biggie for us, as we've agreed. But it is
Yeah.
quite creepy, so I don't know if it'd be a bit weird.
Yeah,
hard to work out.
it's a bit of like a. I always remember thinking at a glance that it was like a stag's head, but
Coming out
it's
the
not.
sea, though.
It's kind of like a big load. Yeah, like waves and like a bit of a.
Yeah.
It's a bit anime again, like or maybe a bit like traditional Japanese kind of style tattoo. But then there's people under a palm tree. It's just a big old like. It
does,
actually
yeah.
suits their sound. Like it's not a million things going on like standards, but like there's a big I don't know,
Yeah, it's a lot of
melting
different
pot of sound,
influences
which
in
is
there
what
as
they
well,
sound
isn't
like.
there? Yeah, I really like it.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Come on then, because this I'll give you mine. We're not doing halves, so this is like I'm right between an
Yeah.
8 and a 9 on this, and I don't know how to. I think I'd give it. Oh,
Right.
9's a lot. 8.
I like how
I'll
we're getting
go
out
8.
of doing halves by I'll just say strong or weak.
It's a strong 8.
We all know what you mean. We're just like
Ben, it's an 8.
Having
It's
7.
an 8.
I really liked it. Yeah, I think
Okay.
like I had that slight negative earlier, but it was more just because I remember like loving it when it came out, and then it was one of those albums that didn't really stick with me in any way. And then listening to it again, I was like, oh, this is great. Like it didn't blow my mind, and I was quite excited to listen to it again. But it was really good. Like it's a really good album.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, I think I'd go a true 7.
Ben, I've
Yeah.
got a good one for you
Hit me.
this week. I'm not sure. You just told me you're going on holiday to Spain. I'm not sure it's got that vibe about it, but I just picked this one purely. I think I recommended these guys to you a while back, and I'm
Okay.
not sure if you listened or not. So I'm going to do it again. And like I said, I'm repping the T-shirt. I don't know if you listened to the counterparts the last time I told you to listen to them because I thought you'd like them. But I want you to listen to Counterparts and the album. I mean, I could have recommended any album, by the way. You should listen to every album by Counterparts. But the album is the difference
Okay.
between Hell and Home.
This is good. I've definitely heard bits, but yeah, I've not done a whole album, so this is good.
Oh, but like if you go in Spotify and you listen to that and you're like, I like this, it'd be a good one
Yeah.
to run to as well. It's quite upbeat. Upbeat
Oh,
heavy though. The difference between Hell and Home, Tragedy Will Find Us, You're Not You Anymore.
Yeah.
Those 3 albums from 2013 to 2017.
I mean, I'm only doing it.
I'm I'm excited. I'm excited. Well, no, you're doing all three. You're away for a week. You will do some work.
Good stuff. Right, I've got one for you.
What you got for me?
You might have heard, so I'll do an alternative if you have, because I feel like they are up your street. Have you heard of a band called Ben Quad? Perfect. So
no.
Just my name and Quad, Quad. Yeah. And there's an album called.
I'm hoping there's 4 of them in the band. Is there 4 of them in the band, and they're called
Hilariously. Ben? Odd. I don't know what the name is, but the album's called I'm Scared.
No. Oh, okay. What was the name of the album? Sorry. Cool.
Yeah, so sorry.
We both just spoke over each other. I'll find the album title, don't worry.
Yeah, I think it'll be up in Strava. I hope it will. It's a great album. Newer emo band. Lovely.
Okay.